Kamala Harris found herself in debt of around $20 million after her 2020 presidential campaign. This situation resulted from a combination of financial difficulties her campaign faced despite initial enthusiasm and high expectations. Harris's campaign was one of the first and most ambitious in the lead-up to the 2020 election, but despite her prominence, it encountered significant challenges that led to the accumulation of a large debt. Let's take a more detailed look at the process. 1. Campaign launch and ambitions. Kamala Harris announced her candidacy for president in January 2019. She quickly gained attention as the first African American and South Asian woman to run for president of the United States. At that time, Harris was already a well-known political figure, having served as California's Attorney General and as a U.S. Senator from California. Expectations for her campaign were high, and she started strong with a large team and substantial donor backing. 2. Issues with support and fundraising. However, Harris's campaign didn't meet expectations. Despite her political experience and personal charisma, she struggled to garner widespread financial support. The key reasons for her campaign's financial difficulties include low popularity among voters. Harris started with high popularity, but as the election neared, her polling numbers began to decline. This was due to several factors, including criticism of her positions on healthcare, taxes, and other political issues. Against more established candidates like Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, and Elizabeth Warren, Harris was unable to stand out. Challenges in raising funds. Although Harris had significant connections in both political and financial circles, she was unable to raise the necessary funds to keep up with the high costs of her campaign. In the early months, her campaign raised money, but as time went on, fundraising slowed. This meant her campaign couldn't afford the aggressive advertising strategies and event organization that other candidates were able to maintain. Slowed momentum and lost trust. By the summer of 2019, Harris faced major setbacks, including criticism of her campaign strategy, leading to a decline in her polling and the departure of some key staff members. All of this impacted her ability to continue raising money. Despite her promising start, her campaign ultimately couldn't stay in the top tier of candidates and quickly ran into financial trouble. 3. Financial troubles and accumulating debt. By the time Harris officially dropped out of the race in December 2019, announcing her exit on December 3rd, her campaign was in a precarious financial position. At that point, her debt amounted to around $20 million. This sum included unpaid wages and service fees. Harris's campaign was obligated to pay wages to thousands of staffers, as well as cover costs like office rent, travel expenses, and other organizational expenses. Expenditures on advertising and events. One of the largest costs came from her campaign's advertising efforts, aimed at attracting voter and donor attention. Despite significant spending on ads, these efforts did not produce the desired results in terms of growing her base or increasing fundraising. Legal and administrative costs. The campaign also incurred costs for legal services and administrative needs related to running a national campaign. 4. Why such a large debt? Several factors contributed to the $20 million debt incurred by Harris's campaign. Inefficient spending. Harris's campaign spent money quickly and extensively on expensive advertising and events, but without the desired impact. Given the decline in her polling numbers and inability to build a strong support base, these expenditures didn't lead to the expected results. Financial struggles. Unlike other major candidates like Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, or Bernie Sanders, Harris couldn't establish a consistent fundraising base. This was one of the primary reasons for her financial troubles. Competition within the party. The 2020 Democratic field was crowded with strong candidates, and the competition for voter and donor attention was fierce. Typically, candidates who lost their popularity also struggled to raise money and meet growing expenses. 5. How was the debt handled? After Harris ended her presidential campaign, her campaign debt was transferred to her political committees. This did not mean that Harris personally bore the responsibility for the debt, but her campaign still needed funds to pay off the obligations. As a result, the remaining debts continued to follow her political structures. However, once Harris was elected Vice President of the United States in 2020, her political career took a different turn. This gave her and her political committees more opportunities to raise money and address the outstanding debts. Thus, despite the financial difficulties during the campaign, her subsequent political career allowed her to work through the debt, and the financial burden on her team gradually decreased. Conclusion: Kamala Harris, like many other candidates, faced the immense financial cost of running for president. Despite her experience and high profile, the 2020 campaign proved financially challenging. Harris was unable to maintain enough support to continue raising funds, which led to a debt of $20 million. However, her election as vice president allowed her to transition to a more stable financial position, helping to address the campaign's outstanding debts.